Now that we have defined who is a youth, of course, the next question is, who are the youth that we have in the Bible, and what have they done? What have they achieved? How have they lived? So I will start first with, who are they? I will give you the example of Joshua. Joshua became Moses' assistant at the age of 38. He was sent to the espionage mission at the age of 40. And he became Israel leader at the age of 78. I want you will understand why I have added the 78, though at that time he was no more youth. Who is the second youth? David. Of course, I spoke about him. David is mentioned in the Bible in 1 Samuel 16:11 at the age of 15 to 17. That is where he is anointed. At the age of 20 years old, he is enrolled in the army. And at the age of 30 years old, he became the king of Judah. And now at the age of 37 years old, he became the king of the entire Israel. Can you notice that he was still youth? And there are so many history after that. Whatever I've said is, you can find it in the Bible. At the age of 20 years old, he enrolled in the army. That is 1 Samuel 17:33. That is when Saul is even speaking to him. He became king of Judah at 30 years old. That is 2 Samuel chapter 2:4. It is stated there. At the age of 37, he became king over the entire Israel. That is 2 Samuel 5:1-5. Please read it, and you can confirm that. I come to Daniel and his friend. Of course, I've already explained about that. That is Daniel 1:1-4. You can confirm that. The other youth that we see in the Bible is Jesus. And if you didn't know, Jesus was youth, unless you might have been reading the Bible and assuming Jesus was a person because of all that he achieved. Jesus was still a youth, and his mentions, I will just take some highlight of his life in the Bible. At the age of 12 years old, he had a great knowledge, and he was full of wisdom that brought the attention of so many people toward him. And you could see and remember the story of him arguing or discussing with the specialist of the law of the law in the temple. And when you keep reading, you will notice that Jesus became a minister at around the age of 30. I'm saying about around because there are still debates where we can say that he started at 28, 29, but we always, round it to 30 years old. And something special, Jesus achieved all his work here on earth. Other people can say he achieved his entire purpose on earth at the age of 33. After Jesus, I have Paul. I said it before. Paul is mentioned as a youth who studied in Jerusalem under Gamaliel between the age of 15 to 25 years old. And he assisted at the stoning of Stephen. You will find it in the book of Acts, chapter 22. You will find it in Galatians, chapter 1:11, going up, because he spoke about it. And the Bible also referred to him, as I said, as a young man when it mentioned him for the first time. At that time, he was not called Paul. He was called Saul. There is Saul there. And we have Timothy. I've spoken about Timothy, who, of course, this is an interesting story. Timothy, who is born in around AD 30, received Christ in his late teenage, around 17 years old, who by 20 years old, when he is entering, like he has completely shifted from late teenage now to youth, started to work with Paul. This is what is written about his life. That is in the book of Acts chapter 16, 1-5. It says, Paul came to Derbe and then to Lystra, where a disciple named Timothy lived, whose mother was Jewish and a believer, but whose father was a Greek. The believers at Lystra and Iconium spoke well of him. Paul wanted to take him along on the journey, so he circumcised him because of the Jews who lived in the area, for they all knew that his father was a Greek, as they traveled from town to town. So, you see, Timothy received Christ around 17 years old and start the work of ministry with Paul at the age of 20 years old. And those are the few examples I wanted to give you about the youth that we found in the Bible. Now, as I said, why have I brought these examples? Because we want to look to their lifestyle. We want to look to the recommendation that were given to them, because these youth were not only youth, they were exceptional youth. They did great, they succeeded. So, linked to their life or linked to their testimonies that we are reading in the Bible, there is a lifestyle that has helped them to achieve this much. And that lifestyle is what Christ has been expecting from us. So we are going to look to their lifestyle and learn from them for us to know what kind of lifestyle in today's world Christ is expecting his youth believers to live, for them to be a blessing to the society, a blessing to their families, a blessing to their own lives, a blessing to the kingdom of heaven.